Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. We've got a bit of a fun one for you today. Today we're going to be putting the three big grading companies, trading card grading companies that is, to the battle. Each of them are going to undergo a series of strength tests to see which slab fares the best at protecting your valuables inside, which is obviously one of the main reasons that people get their cards graded in the first place. But before we get smashing these slabs, let's take in a little bit of a history lesson. When you think of professional card grading, three main companies known as the big three should come to mind: PSA, BGS and CGC. PSA, being Professional Sports Authenticator, was established back in 1991 by a gentleman called David Hall, who was the current owner of the well-known coin grading company PCGS. As per the name, the main focus of the company at the time was sports cards authenticating, which was a real problem at the time because a large number of fakes were being produced. PSA was established to try and combat some of that. And grading also wasn't too heard of. But this was back in a time before even eBay, and so the collector's market for trading cards was quite a niche one at that. Since the creation of PSA, they have now graded over 40 million cards and 75 million total collectibles, and have established themselves as the staple of card grading. They've also made minimal changes to their slabs and labels over the years, with it being simple, clear and secure. PSA card grading costs start about $15 per card for their cheapest service. Next up, we have BGS, or Beckett Grading Services. Beckett as a company started way before PSA, back in 1984 when it was known as Beckett Publications, created by the man himself, James Beckett. Beckett Publications was just that, a publisher, which mainly focused on issuing publications on trading card prices, specifically baseball. The ownership of Beckett seems to have passed through a few hands over the last few years, but under the new guise of Beckett Media, they started professionally authenticating and grading trading cards back in 2001. Like PSA, although the label and slab have changed slightly over the years, Beckett slabs are easily recognisable and has well established itself as one of the top authentication and grading services, using a slab style that hasn't really been copied by any other of the newer companies. Beckett card grading cost fluctuates a little due to the option of subgrades, but is roughly $20 per card. And finally we have CGC, or Certified Guarantee Company. CGC is the youngest of the big three, setting up shop back in the year 2000. CGC entered the market as a grading and authentication company for comic books and has since well established itself as the global leader in comic book authentication and grading. It wasn't, however, until 2020 that CGC announced they would also start grading trading cards, shrinking down the well-known blue comic labels now to fit in a slab fit for a trading card. Having only been in the trading card market for 3 years, they've done extremely well to climb towards the top of what is now a very congested market. Early this year, they also announced a merger with CGC and CSG, which is their certified sports guarantee, and completely redesigned the slab label, a move that very much shocked and divided fans of the previous blue label, instead now going for a much more neutral black and silver finish, but have kept the slab itself the exact same from what I can tell. With this slab redesign, CGC slashed the cost of grading service, and now it only costs from $12 per card at the cheapest level. Now, I'm well aware that there's also many more grading companies that have popped up all over the world since, particularly here in the UK, where we have to rely on middlemen services in order to send our cards over to the US grading companies. And I can look into these companies in the future if that's something else that you guys would like to see. But anyway, let's get battling. So here are the three fine representatives from each of the three grading companies that are going to be battling out to see who can take home the title of the best protective slab here today. These are the cheapest possible slabs I could find for each of the companies. I apologise if anyone gets offended seeing your boy Ekans getting destroyed. Hopefully CGC can do a good enough job of protecting him. So for the first test today, before we compromise any of the slabs structurally, I want to do an airtight test to see how airtight these slabs are and in turn how waterproof they are. Obviously it's unlikely that you'd ever be in the situation where your slabs are submerged in water, but if water is easily able to get in, then so will dust and even small insects. For this test, I'm going to hold each slab underwater for 5 seconds, watch for any air bubbles coming up, and then examine each slab to see if anything got in. So, CGC up first, in for 5 seconds, and out. I noticed, I don't know if you guys saw, there's a few air bubbles popping up there, so indicating that some water might have got in. Next up, same test again, but this time for PSA. And same again, this one with the Beckett slab. So during the tests, the CGC slab was the only one I actually noticed air bubbles coming from while it was being submerged. But getting it out now, having dried it off on the outside, I can't see any water that's gotten in. And it's the same story for both the PSA and the Beckett slab as well. Having dried them off on the outside, I can't see any water that's gotten in. So that was a bit boring. I'm going to take them all three again and put them back in the water, and this time hold them under for 30 odd seconds just to see if we can get any water penetrating those slabs. Right, hopefully that was a quick 30 seconds for you guys. I'll sped that up a little bit. Yeah, fun further inspection. After another 30 seconds underwater, still no water in, which I'm really impressed at. I thought that they would definitely let some water in, so yeah, very impressed. For the next test, I did think about doing a sun damage test to see how well the slabs would keep out the UV from damaging the colours of the cards, but don't have that long, so here's a few pictures of what the sun can do to a card. Right, let's get into some proper damage tests, shall we? So next I'm going to do a series of drop tests from different heights on different surfaces. So first up, just going to drop them all flat onto a carpet from a metre height, so about just over waist height if you're walking around your house or a carpeted area and you happen to drop your slab on the floor. And as you can probably expect, no damage whatsoever to any of the slabs, and none of the labels have moved around at all either, so passes for all round. Next up, we're going to do the same test again, dropping it from a metre flat, but this time onto a concrete slab rather than carpet, so more simulating if you're out and about or if you're at a card show and it's a bit of a harder surface dropping it onto. Again, dropping all these flat. These are making a lot more of a thud when they hit the ground. So results, the Beckett slab, no damage as far as I can tell. The raised back of the slab certainly helps protect the surface from it, from any damage, so all good from Beckett. CGC, you can see that slight scratch to the front, that was there on the slab beforehand, not from this test. And again, no damage present. However, I don't know if you can see this on the camera, but you can see there's a few water droplets there. I initially thought they were on the outside, but they are in fact on the inside of the slab. So clearly from the water test, there's a bit of water had got in and the drop has just dislodged it a little bit and it's now present inside the slab. And PSA, similar to Beckett, all good. Those raised edges just protecting the surface from any scratches from that test. So same thing again now, but we're going to drop it rather than flat this way onto its bottom left corner. Right, seeing some proper damage now. So this bottom left hand corner has definitely been smacked. Big old cracking and damage seen there to the Beckett slab. A bit of it's chipped away in that corner. Done well at protecting, but yeah, that's very visibly damaged. CGC seems to have fared better. The rim of that corner has chipped away a little bit, but it seems to have fared a lot better than the Beckett slab in terms of visible damage. And PSA, probably the best of them all, to be honest. There's not much cracking happening through the plastic. It's chipped away a tiny bit of that extruding surface there, but yeah, definitely PSA handled that one the best. So we're going to increase the stakes a little bit now, and we're going to go to a 2 meter drop on the same drop but different corner. You will see that at this height the slabs are moving around a little bit more in the air. They're not falling completely straight, but I've done as much as I can to make sure they fall the same way. So not too much different noticing on this one. The Beckett slab, clearly when it wrapped threw itself around a little bit on the ground. It's cracked even more of that bottom left-hand corner off. No extra damage, but yeah, that corner a lot more beaten up. CGC slab, similar story. The bottom left-hand corner looks a little bit worse off, but other than that, everywhere else seems fine. A little bit of a nick to that top corner there, but pretty good overall. And the PSA slab, similar story. A little bit of nicks to one of the other corners. That initial corner still looks about the same, maybe cracked off a little bit more. But overall, I'd say PSA probably still looks the least damage, then CGC, and then Beckett. Next up, we're going to do impact test. I'm going to shoot each of the slabs. Being in the UK, it's not going to be with any proper guns. This is going to be with an airsoft rifle. An airsoft sniper rifle firing a plastic BB pellet at about 350 feet per second. So let's see how they handle.
Fire in the hole.
So here's the results. You can see 3 quite obvious impact marks from where I hit. I was aiming high on all of them just so I could have got a bit more space to play with for the next few tests. But you can see there on the Beckett slab, it's completely cracked the inside of the case. I can't feel any actual cracks on the outside. It all seems to be on the inside, but you can see that's gone the whole way through. You can see that shock perforated through the whole of the first layer of plastic. And yeah, you can see bits of plastic inside the case itself, where it's bits of shrapnel have been sent out inside the case. CGC, similar story. It seems like the actual cracks have perforated a bit wider. The individual cracks have gone a bit further through the plastic. Similar story of the front and back layer, both exhibiting cracks, but neither of them can really be felt on the outside. And then PSA, clearly a little bit more brittle of the 3, has got a massive crack now going down about half of the slab, and you can feel that on the outside. And you can see there, it's the first layer's gone through, and it's gone through a lot of layer of the back, which you can also feel. So massive damage on the PSA slab there compared to the others. Next impact test, we're going to use a dart. I'm going to drop a dart from 1 meter in height straight onto the surface of each of the slabs. So results pretty boring, not much damage. You can see tiny little pinprick marks where each of them have hit. There's the one on the Beckett, you just about see. Hardly any damage at all, not gone through that first layer, just that little tiny dent. Same story with the CGC, you can see there's a tiny little mark. Again, no proper damage. With the PSA slab, similar to the first test, you can see that little pinprick mark, but it's also created about a 2-3 centimeter crack. Again, just showing how it's a little bit more brittle than the other 2 when it comes to impact tests. So for the final of the test, we're going to properly ramp it up. I'm going to take a 1.25 kilo weight, drop it vertically straight onto the surface of each of the slabs from the same height of 1 meter. See how they do.
Now that's a lot of damage!
So some massive damage there, not quite as how I expected it was going to go, but first up was the Beckett slab. You can see a massive side of it is chipped off, huge cracks perforated through the whole of the back of the slab. It's a little bit bendy now, I could probably break that with my hands, but the kite itself, not too bad. It's definitely going to have a bit of surface damage from that, but not too bad off. CGC completely destroyed, 4 bits basically to the slab. The kite itself has got a massive crease down the middle. Yeah, it just didn't like that at all. Completely cracked it through every single side of the slab. and then which is what probably I thought was going to happen to the PSA slab, but then the PSA slab didn't. It's massively plastically deformed, as you can see. Massive bulge in the back, lots of cracks, but not brittle enough for it to perforate to the sides of the slab and crack it entirely. So I guess maybe because it's packed a bit tighter and it's a bit thinner, it's harder for that plastic to move about and completely crack like the CGC one. But yeah, so there we have it, the final results. They all did pretty well. As I say, I torture tested these three a bit more than you could probably expect a slab to go through in its normal life. But I hope you guys enjoyed. The PSA slab probably fared the best with those drop tests initially, the corners not really being too phased by the concrete. The Beckett definitely phased the best with the impact tests, and CGC was a bit of a middleman throughout a lot of it, apart from that last test where we obviously put them through their paces and it completely failed. So I hope you all enjoyed. If you want to see this kind of video again, then do let me know. There's plenty of English and other grading companies that exist now, as I mentioned at the start of the video, that I can do this again on if you want to see. So yeah, let me know, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.